So let's look at we can look at the definition of health education, and then we can look at various components, the attributes of health education. So when you look at the slides that I gave out to you, already we all know what education is. Education is to transform our lives, make us better, so that we can become useful to the society. So when you look at health education from that perspective, we are saying that it's any activity that seeks to inform the individuals on the nature and causes of health and ill health, and that individual's personal level of risk associated with their lifestyle-related behavior. So simply, any activity that seeks to inform the individual on the nature and the causes of your health and ill health, and how individuals' levels of risk in terms of their behavior affect their health. Those are the things that we are simply referring to as health education. So if you're able to get information that actually enlighten you, to inform you better on issues that can make you healthy and issues that can also predispose you to health conditions, then you have health education. And mostly we also look at the personal behavior, because you and I have said in this class that the behavioral or lifestyle diseases are more as compared to genetic and transmittable diseases, or sorry, let's say genetic diseases, because even some of the transmittable diseases are behavioral diseases. So basically, you are looking at the risks that are associated with the certain behaviors of the people and how those behaviors actually expose them to certain health conditions or disease conditions. So your ability to influence people where that particular knowledge can actually inform the individual to identify the nature and the causes of the health that they have and ill health, we can actually refer to that as health education. In other words, health education seeks to motivate individuals to accept a process of behavioral change through directly influencing their value, belief, attitude systems, why it is deemed that the individual is particularly at risk or has already been affected by the illness or disease or disability. That's according to Whitehead 2004 and then WHO 1986. So you seek education to motivate the individuals, or your ability to motivate the individual to accept, to be able to change their behavior. For example, you have targeted drunkards from community where you see that alcohol has actually taken over their life completely and has a lot of effect on them. You can decide to educate them to identify the fact that alcohol is not good for their health, so that actually they can adopt behaviors, that is change behavior, that is change drinking, ability to avoid alcohol or to reduce the intake, so that they can actually get free from this alcohol syndrome. Or you have observed that there's a high level of teenage pregnancy. So you must have the conscience of these individuals to identify the causes of this teenage pregnancy and also try to help them to be able to come out of the problem and how to come out and what are the measures to put in place so that they don't find themselves into those. You cannot do that just like that. You must speak to the value of the people. That is why it involves a lot of people, not only individual. Though we said that there are some of them that you have to focus on the behavior of the individuals, there are some of them that you have to focus on the community. For example, when you look at the widowhood rights or widowhood practices, where women who lost their husband to what? Sleep on the same bed with their dead husband, or they are supposed to go through certain cultural practices as part of the burial process. And you know most of them, or some of the cultural practices like Chokosi system, where young girls are taken from community to live with what? These elderly men. and they live in servitude. That is, they live in slavery. That's one you cannot speak to an individual to bring the change that you are looking at, or the change that you expect to see in that particular place within that individual, because it's a community thing. It's a community that has come out with those procedures. It's a community that have said that young girls should take and serve what? The priest, somebody who is 60 years. It's a community that has set up that they should be what? Widowhood practices. It's a community that has come out with what? Female genital mutilation. So if we speak to that individual, it will be difficult to bring the change. That is why in this definition, you see that we talk about what? Values. There are things that communities value so much. So you must identify those values and speak to the community by identifying the stakeholders, the opinion leaders, those that matter in the community, those world influence, so that they can actually have the influence generally on the society. Then you can see the change that you want. The belief systems and attitudes. These are things that are always promoted by the communities. As I said, individual may not be willing to undertake those kind of what? Widowhood practices, but it's a community. It's accepted norm of doing things. So if you want to see the change, you must speak to the elders of the community, stakeholders, and engage in, come out with community engagement so that they can actually understand the reason why you think that there's a need for them to change their beliefs, their values, so that they can conform to the current happiness. Because you all know that, how do you call it? Female genital mutilation is not good. We all know that some of the widowhood practices are barbaric. We also know that trochocys system is barbaric. But why are we still doing it? So we have to look at all of this and speak to the community, change belief system, change values, so that the change that we are looking at in the long term can actually happen. But if you speak to the individual, they will not be able to do it because they do not have that power. It's a community that has instituted that. So you must speak to the community leaders and engage the entire community so that you can bring that particular change that you are looking at. Especially when you realize that those values or belief system has put a lot of them into what? Certain risk conditions already, or you have already exposed them to certain health conditions. Then you quickly have to change. Because you and I know that those widowhood practices and some of the practices that people go through is not good. It affects their health. Because first, you don't know the kind of disease that the person died from. And you are made to sleep on the same bed with a dead body. Who does that? That affects the health of the people. Look at the young girls that we send to serve in these shrines. Their education is completely jeopardized. So we know the implications of this, and we cannot do it alone. So we need the community to be able to achieve that, especially when we realize that those practices expose people, make people to become ill or sick, exposed to certain disease condition, and sometimes disability. So those are the things that we need to talk about. Then definition continues that, or we are also saying that helping individual to know, feel for good, practice good health habits, or making healthy choices to improve their health. That is what? Education. So there are people that do not know. In fact, when they know, they won't be able to do it. It's a knowledge is power. A lot of people are not aware. People are not aware that if you go to widowhood rites, where probably you are sleeping close to a dead body, they can get disease. They don't know. They don't know that when we leave young girls to go and serve and they become pregnant, their future is jeopardized. They see in the community as well, a normal thing. When you separate old ladies from your community that they are witches and wizards, and you deprive them of their social amenities and everything, what you do is that you are sending them to their grave earlier than expected. So we who are in school, we are health workers, and we understand these issues. We need to educate our people to understand. So with education, they get to know. And they also feel for good. When people get to know that, oh, education can make me better, they will feel to go and have that particular education. So it is very important that we at all times try as much as possible to bring the education closer. So we as individuals who are in school, we also need to make this knowledge to the people. Just let them know so that they will be able to practice good health habits and make healthy choices to improve upon their health. You and I know there are certain activities when you undertake to affect your health. That's why we don't smoke. You and I, we know that's why we don't smoke, because you know the implication of health. Even though it takes a long time for the cancerous cell to develop, we know that eventually when you continue 20, 25 years, you are going to develop cancer. So you and I, we are aware. That is why we don't go and smoke. Then beyond that, we also say that an intentional activity designed to achieve health and health-related learning, leading to relatively permanent change in individual capability and behavior. So obviously, your health education is an intentional activity. That is why you can't do health education saying that it's not a planned activity. It must be a planned activity because you must get a target. That is what you want to achieve. So it's a design purposely to achieve health and health-related learnings that will eventually bring permanent change. And you all know, you and I know that change is not easy. So when we look at some of the ethics when it comes to health education, change is not easy. It doesn't happen a day. So you must continue to provide the education all the time, so that at least it will get to a level that people can buy into the idea. People can buy into what you are preaching, so that they will be able to listen to you and also adapt that behavior that you want to see. And then in health education, the ultimate outcome that you and I are expecting is what? Behavior change. Health behavior change is what we are looking at. Once people are smoking and you continue to educate them on the negative effect of smoking, what you want to see eventually is that people will stop smoking and become better of the society. And when that happens, the cancers will reduce. When people are engaging in risky behaviors, having unprotected sex, and doing all manner of things, you know that disease will continue. And HIV is taking what? The people who are active, people who can contribute to the economy of Ghana are dying because of HIV. And the orphans that are coming up is also a difficult issue. In fact, when you look at orphans that are coming up as a result of what? Their parent dying out of HIV. So you also need to look at that. And also look at diabetes, especially if you look at the type 2 diabetes. It's human behavior. It's type 1 that you have some autoimmune system that destroys certain cells that produce, how do you call it? The insulin that you are looking at. But when you look at the type 2 diabetes, it's our behavior. Inactivity, the things that we eat, we don't engage in any activity at all, we sit at home. Those are the things that are causing what? Diabetes. Look at hypertension. Look at cardiovascular diseases. They are all our behaviors. So you must continue to speak to the people to change the behavior that we are all expecting to see at the end of the day. However, we are saying that the behavior change does not happen a day. It's a process. So you must also persist. You must be resilient so that you continue to make this case, justify your cases, and let the facts bear to them so that they can understand and appreciate where you are coming from. And those that are willing, eventually, you see some changes in the community. So that's about health education. And traditionally, when you look at health education, we talk about raising awareness, creating awareness among the people. And the two, trying to persuading people to adopt healthy lifestyle and utilization of health services. However, things have changed. It is no longer just about creating awareness. We are talking about speaking to the people about their values, their belief system that they have, that actually predispose them to these health conditions. So we have moved beyond the traditional concerns of health education to the modern one. What we are looking at what? Permanent change in behavior. Or we are looking at change in beliefs and practices that we have. Or we are looking for changes in our values. We are looking at changes in our communities and things that we believe in. So we have moved from there and we are trying to bring health promotion closer to the doorstep of people. Because when we continue to say awareness, we have done a lot of awarenesses in this country, but how many people has actually hit to the awareness that have been created? Other than that, we will not still have HIV cases in Ghana today. Look at the awareness that have been created. Look at the intensified education that we had. Ghana AIDS Commission is doing a lot of work. The general public is doing a lot of work since HIV was discovered in Ghana. And yet still, you'll be surprised to see the number of people who are HIV positive in Ghana. So clearly, we must move from the traditional way of health promotion and adopt where we can speak to the community and sometimes leave the individual out, because there are community practices that expose the individual. Just talk about TB, last I spoke about, that if it has to be naming ceremony of babies or at funerals, they are using the same glass that they used to fetch drink or dish out drink to their people. The local drink that is Shepito or Akpeteshi, they are using the same calabash or they are using the same glass. And somebody probably who has TB, by the time you finish sharing that drink, you have shared TB to all the people who have come to that naming ceremony or that particular funeral, because somebody has a TB and the person is using the same glass to take the alcohol, and everybody is using the same glass. And it's a community practice. If you just go and say, oh, you have to get your, people will think that you are discriminating against them. So you need to take it from one level to the other, involve the community members so that at least you speak to them and understand that these are the values that I want you to change. We are not saying that I should not drink Pito. We are not saying that I should not drink Akpeteshi. That will not expose you to any disease condition. However, get disposable plastics. That's when you take the drink, that particular plastic cup is for you. Nobody is going to share that with you until you are satisfied, you just throw it away. And another person, so that at the end of the day, in our gatherings, we don't get disease, we don't expose ourselves to some disease conditions. Some lessons on approaches to health education. What we also have to know is that the client that you are going to speak to, they are not ignorant about their health problems, are they? There are some that are actually ignorant about issues that affect their health. But you have to ask yourself, is the client actually ignorant about their health problems? There are people who know that when they drink, it affects them, but they continue to do it. 2, is the health worker the only one knowledgeable? No, it's not only the health worker. So when you want to organize this health education, you must also understand that people that you are going to talk to, they also have certain level of knowledge about the things. So it is always very good, very important that you engage in what we call activity-based learning when you are doing health promotion. It shouldn't be a lecture where people sit down, you come and pour the knowledge on them and you are going. Seek their views. This is what we want to do. How do you think we can do it? Let them understand that these are the problems that come with the condition that you want to change. Then allow them to come up with suggestions. And when you do that, they feel that they are part of your study and therefore they will give out a maximum contribution. Then, should the approach be tackled from the assumption that the client is an empty barrel on whom knowledge is poured? That is another question you have to ask, especially when you are going to virgin areas. When you are going to virgin areas where you think that there's a limited information. For example, when COVID-19 started, a new disease from China, a lot of lectures were going on because nobody have heard about this before. And we also expect the communities that they lack the knowledge. So that's when there were a lot of lectures. Those are the areas we are talking about, virgin areas. But if the things have been there for some time, that tells you that the community are aware of the issues that are happening. And therefore, you must just seek their views and also give you the area that they also think they can contribute to whatever you are coming to do. Then you also look at the attributes of health education. The intention is to alter or move where identifiable and measurable risk factors are known. So the ultimate goal, as I even said before this slide, is that you should be able to change behavior, alter the behavior, modify the behavior, especially when it is what? Health damaging, so that people can change and adopt new behaviors that will not expose to them to disease conditions. Then you also talk about willingness of an individual to participate in the expert-driven programs of behavioral change in exchange for a reduction in risk of illness or disease, and with the expected outcome of improved health status. So is the individual willing to participate in the expert-driven programs? For example, currently there's a research that is ongoing now about mental health. You know, COVID-19 has brought a lot of issues, but one of the challenges that are coming up is mental health. Because recently I found out when you lock down people, there's a restriction of movement that eventually brings some kind of depression. And when people are depressed, eventually it affects their mental health. So there are a lot of mental health issues now as we speak. That is one aspect. Secondly, you also see what? There's a lot of teenage pregnancies in Ghana, even though we know there's teenage pregnancy in Ghana. The last year, 2020, I think it was horrible. Ghana recorded 109,000 plus, almost 110,000 teenage pregnancies in Ghana. That has never happened before. So clearly that is telling you that there are challenges that are coming, and these are the experts giving us ideas. Are the people willing to change their behavior? Because of the lockdown, people were experimenting sex because they are not going to anywhere. Adolescents are not going to school. So those are the things that we engage in. And these are the outcomes that we are seeing. So you must also discuss and expect that they understand where you are coming from, so that at the end of the day, you will be able to participate in the expert-driven, because these are the things that experts have identified that they are happening to our society, and therefore they can also change their behaviors. Then we can also look at the approaches and the methods of health education. We call one didactic approach, and then the second one is a Socratic approach. The didactic approach is that involves instructing about matters concerning their health and to adopt healthy lifestyle to improve and maintain their health. So over here, you think that the one who is giving out the education think that he or she knows everything or knows all. So they actually involved in what? Lecturing, like what I'm doing here, giving out lectures, giving out instruction, expect others to follow or to learn from them. They do not involve students in any activity. They just give out lectures of their education and they are gone. In the communities, even when they get there, sometimes they don't even want to get out of their vehicles. They'll still be there in vehicles and be talking to the people because probably they see the environment. But when you do those things, you indirectly alienate people from you. You are separating people indirectly from you. They do not feel comfortable. And when people have seen that you are discriminating against them, they also do not accept what? The message that you are bringing to the community. So that's what we are referring to as what? Didactic approach. But when you look at the Socratic approach, it's an educative method where knowledge is exchanged between the health workers giving out the talk and individual community members. So that's why we have the interaction. How do we do it better? So the community will come on board, the individual also come on board. Our time is up. This Zoom will end, and when it ends, I think we can rejoin and have another one.
All right.
So these are the two clear examples that you can identify. The didactic is about lectures. You go to the community, you are lecturing, you think that they don't know anything. So it involves just lecturing. But in the other aspect, you involve, it's like exchange of knowledge between you and the community members. How do we do it better?